Good evening. How are you? I hope everyone is still in the game. I suggest you drink a glass of water, stretch your body, and stay still because we are yet to uncover and explore more on the field of linguistics. I am Mr. Steve Trosio Corsino, and welcome to my class. Good morning once again. So previously we dwell so much about the concepts of linguistic. Now this time we will dwell on social linguistics. Again, I will be with you. I am Mr. Steve Trosio Corsino Maed, and I'll be discussing with you for about 15 minutes. So Sir Alex, my co-reporter, speak about the difference between woman and man as far as the language usage is concerned. So he previously differentiated that women and men develop different patterns of language use. And on his discussion, it was stated that women focus more on the affective functions of interaction compared to men, while men also tend to use linguistic devices that stress on solidarity more often compared to men. It was also highlighted in his discussion that women tend to interact in ways which maintain and increase solidarity, while men tend to interact in ways which will maintain and increase their power and status. So it was also reiterated several times that women are stylistically more flexible than men. So these are some of the things that you have learned from the previous report. This time, my discussion or my role is to add some ideas, to add some information about what makes women and men different from each other as far as language usage is concerned. But before that, this will be the outline of my discussion. I'll have a very brief summary of my topic, and we will also be talking about the Kramer's analysis of the cartoons. Later, we will know what makes women and men different from each other using cartoons. And I'll be sharing few research results on gender differences. And I'll be making a very brief summary on my entire discussion. So, we know that in the connection of structures, ways of using language, vocabularies, and social roles of men and women is one or are one of the most major topic in social linguistics. So we know that there is variations in men and women's speech when we speak about society's attitude. And we want to examine or to consider whether there is a conflict between women and men, or is there any gender conflict or gender neglect. So most of the sociologists ask this question. First, do men and women use language in different ways? If they do these differences arise from the structure of that language, which would be some confirmation of the Worfian hypothesis? There are few people or several people ask this question. Do the differences merely reflect differing social, cultural ideas and roles about men? And many also ask this question. Can a language be sexist? We know that when we speak about sexist, it pertains to prejudices about women compared to men when we speak about sex. Or should sexism be used only for individual people who use the language? So in social linguistics, most of the time use gender over sex, because the word sex would basically refer to biologically determined qualities. So that would mean that if you have female organ, then you are female. If you have male organ, then you are male. But in social linguistics, we usually use gender because gender implies more socially constructed category, something we learn and changes over time. So our gender is not determined by our organ, but this is determined by how we perceive ourselves, whether we are women or we feel like a man. So we assimilate into gender conception. So gender takes into account genetic, social, psychological, cultural sources or ideas about men and women. So many forms about gender are grounded in race, ethnicity, religion, social class, regions. So different groups have different constructions, whether it's ideas or norms, and these are reflected in language. So let us take this example about identical twins. So at 7 months, they were circumcised. One twin's penis was burned off by too much current. So there was a suggestion by the plastic surgeon that he be raised as girl. So the reconstructive surgery was done to make him female. So the name was changed. Of course, the hairstyle, the clothing, etc. So by 4, the girl was neat and proud when she put on a new dress and fixed her hair. She's like a typical girl in interests and likes. But as time goes by, there were problems in the latter part. So we can conclude that our gender is not merely a product, or is not merely determined by nature, or one is not merely born, but gender is also socialized into a gender category. Now let's take the Kramer's analysis on the cartoon. So when both gender were represented in the cartoon, men spoke twice as much as women. In the cartoons, men and women also spoke or speak in different topics. So men speaks more about business, they speak about politics, they speak about legal matters, and yeah, we speak about taxes, cars, vehicles maybe, and of course, basically most of the men speak about sports. On the other hand, women spoke about social life. They speak about books, they speak about their favorite food, restaurant, and what drinks are they drinking. And of course, they speak about life troubles. And most of the time, women speak about lifestyle. So women spoke less purposely than men, and men swore much more than women. So men were also more blunt and to the point in their speaking. So, in a conversation involving both men and women, many researchers agree that men speak more than women do. One also found that when men talk to men, the content categories of such talk focus on competition and teasing, sports, aggression, and doing things. Men on the other hand, when women talk to women, the equivalent categories were the self feelings, affiliation with others, home and family. So women are also reported to use more polite forms and more compliments than men. So in doing so, they are said to be seeking to develop solidarity with others in order to maintain social relationships. Now, on the other hand, men are likely to use talk to get things done. However, these are tendencies only. Men also try to bend, and women also try to move others to action. So there was a study which was conducted by Mills in 2003. She contests the view that women are more polite than men. So she said in her study that women are expected to use and to do use talk to a greater extent than men to serve the function of establishing and maintaining personal relationships. So this is not surprising, as the responsibility for interpersonal relationships primarily rests with women. So if we're going to give an example, as we have observed, women to a greater extent than men are expected to talk and do talk simply in order to keep the interaction flowing smoothly and to show goodwill towards others. And they are expected to talk and do talk about personal feelings and other socio-emotional matters relevant to the interpersonal relationships to a greater extent than men. So Another claim about this is the evidence that in cross-gender conversation, women ask more questions than men, encourage others to speak, use more back-channeling signals like to encourage others to continue speaking, use more instances of you and we, and do not protest as much as men when they are interrupted. Now, on the other hand, men interrupt more, challenge, dispute, and ignore more, try to control what topics are discussed, and are inclined to make categorical statements such as behaviors are not characteristics of women in conversation that involve both men and women. Now, there was a notion that language is really sexist. It favors one gender. It could favor men or it may favor women. So there are several claims. I think there are three. So first claim is that women or men and women are biologically different and that this difference has serious consequences for gender. So women are somehow predisposed psychologically to be involved with one another and be mutually supportive and non-competitive. So on the other hand, men are innately predisposed to independence and to vertical rather than horizontal relationships. So second claim is that social organization is best perceived as some kind of hierarchical set of power relationships. So moreover, such organization by power may appear to be entirely normal, justified both genetically and evolutionarily, and therefore natural and possibly even preordained. So the third claim is that men and women are social beings who have learned to act in certain ways. So language, basically behavior, is largely learned behavior. So men learns to be men and women learn to be women. So that we speak about linguistics. Now, society subjects them to different life experiences. So this is often referred to as the difference view as opposed to the dominance view, which I have just mentioned previously. So, I'll give you a very short summary of what I have discussed earlier. The women and men may differ from each other in 5 indicators. First indicator is about minimal response. So this is the ways in which the communicative behavior of men and women may differ. So for example, women have a conversation like paralinguistic features such as and yeah, so which is behavior associated with collaborative, okay, while men generally use and yeah less frequently compared to women. Second difference, when we speak about question, so men and women is really different from each other in the context of the use of questions, because in conversations men do use language to show their toughness, to show their lack of affect and competitiveness, to show independence, to show competence, to show hierarchy, to show control. So therefore, in using question, men usually ask something to do point that different, which is different from women. Now, on the other hand, women usually do not do point when they want to ask something that is very different from men. So for women, they usually ask question more frequently. So they usually use tag questions to avoid making strong statements. Therefore, they wanted to reflect their conservatism, to prestige consciousness, to upward mobility, to insecurity, to deference, to nurturance, to emotional expressivity, to connectedness, to sensitivity to others, and to solidarity. Next difference is on turn taking, which rises to complex forms of interaction and relation to the more regimented form of turn taking. So, female linguistic behavior characteristically encompasses a desire to take turns in conversation with others, which is opposed to men's tendency towards entering on their own point or remaining silent when presented with such implicit offers of conversational turn taking as are provided by hedges such as and isn't it. So another difference is the change of topic conversation. So this difference may be seen in the topic that they have discussed. So I am not being discriminative here. I am not sexist here, but let me give you the content of my reference. So they said that women, I do not know if it's true to everyone, but the book says that women speak more about gossips. They speak about men. They speak about shopping. They speak about child rearing, and they speak about personal relationship. On the other hand, most of the time, the topic for the men's conversation is firm. They speak about sports, and we cannot deny the fact that most of the time men speak about women, girlfriends, their wives, their other girls maybe, and they speak about politics, and of course they speak about cars. And the fifth difference is self-disclosure. So self-disclosure is a process which was originally defined as telling others about the self. So for example, when it comes to problems, women usually share their experiences and their problems to offer or to ask sympathy, and most of the time they share their problems to their friends. While men, most of the time, we don't share. We choose to make some non-self-disclosure and professing advice or offering a solution when confronted with another's problem. So basically, most of the time, problems of men are resolved by men alone, because men usually solve their problems by themselves. So I just do hope that I have differentiated the difference between men and women as far as the language used or usage is concerned. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. May God bless us all, and goodbye.